maybe what I suggest is that we go from one initiative to the other, from one working group to the other, and begin with the Americas.
Thank you, Mo. And hello to everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Well, I am very pleased to share that in the Americas breakout session, both Argentina and Costa Rica were present, and this allowed for a very specific regional discussion, of course, about the genocide prevention and mass atrocities prevention in the region. To start with, representatives from Costa Rica's Ministry of Foreign Affairs mentioned that the Latin American Network for the Prevention of Genocide, a regional initiative to deal with this agenda, needs and must be strengthened. There was a common understanding with Argentina in this regard. Among other topics, the Latin American Network identifies the indigenous peoples of the Americas as a population that faces risks and challenges, obviously for several reasons. Given that this is a common challenge faced by many Latin American countries, and not only, there is much more to do about it from the Latin American Network for the Prevention of Genocide. Argentina mentioned existing conversations on this regard between the Auschwitz Institute for the Prevention of Genocide, that works as a secretariat of the Latin American Network, and the National Institute for Indigenous Affairs in Argentina to develop a training course about the promotion and protection of the human rights of indigenous peoples. Costa Rica's, moreover, foreign ministry representatives mentioned a very interesting initiative they carried out recently in the format of a conference series on the prevention of violence, targeting public officials both working on the National Commission of Human Rights and the National Commission of International Humanitarian Law. This conference series in Costa Rica was partly motivated due to the increased violence experienced in Costa Rica against public officials during the COVID-19 pandemic. Representatives from Argentina pointed out that, in part, hate speech and violence had also been exacerbated in Argentina during the pandemic context, and pointed out, unfortunately, some very specific and, for the time being, limited warring tendencies in the political arena related to hate speech. As a common proposal, both countries agreed on the need to strengthen the Inter-American system of human rights, that is, both the Inter-American Court of Human Rights and the Inter-American Commission. There are indeed rulings of the Inter-American Court about genocide prevention that can and must be rendered more visible, as well as the fact that there is a reservoir, Argentina and Costa Rica believe, of experts and expertise in the Inter-American system of human rights that can be definitely more widely shared in the multilateral fora. To end with, Argentina, as a very practical and concrete example, as well as the conference series in Costa Rica, mentioned that in the gender violence prevention field, a law was passed at the national level to prevent, obviously, gender-based violence. And in this regard, a mandatory training course was launched for all public officials to make as a mandatory prerequisite in their public servant careers. This is a very concrete example that could be replicated with other topics within the atrocity prevention agenda. Thank you very much. I'm sure that time is up or about to be.
Sorry, thank you so much, Martin. Wonderful, to the point. The only thing I would tell you in return is that when you will send the exact wording of this new step, I would say, in the regional initiative, don't forget to indicate very concretely the indicators for results. What are the concrete, tangible results that you together want to achieve? So in 2 years, we can look back and say, wow, actually you did it, or there were difficulties, and we can analyze that together. But wonderful. I find it particularly interesting to really strengthen the capacity of regional institutions such as the Inter-American Court, notably, and to use, and the Commission, and to use this reservoir of experts. Concrete expected results will be also very useful when you report in a written form on that. Let's maybe turn to Europe, bouncing from one side of the ocean. Who is going to report on Europe? Is Martin there, or is Kate Ferguson reporting on that?
Yes, I think it's me, Mo.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate.
Yeah, we had a really rich conversation. I think we were represented by a good handful of European positions and state and non-state. And we all agree that there is a real urgency here for lots of reasons to kind of make sure that not just within the community of GAAMAC, but far more broadly, more is being done to kind of bridge the lessons and expertise of the atrocity prevention world and the really worrying situations that we see in Europe. And I think within that rich conversation, what really became very clear is that if an initiative is to emerge, whether out of GAAMAC or from Europe in this arena, the core challenge must be of communicating within and to Europe and to the rest of the world that Europe is not immune from atrocity risks, and that very particularly many of those warning signs that are so recognizable to our community of practice that indicate the antecedents of extremism, of identity-based violence, of mass atrocity crimes are already present across Europe in many different forms. And so therefore that was sort of the core goal, I think, that our group kind of got to, even if, of course, within the space of 45 minutes, we did not resolve how we would do that. But I think that was the core objective. And we recognize that if that's the objective, then actually we can be quite creative in how that those changes to political culture, to practical policy application, whether the policies of NGOs or the policies of states can be achieved, how we can bring together these communities of atrocity prevention and others that work within fields of hatred and discrimination might look like. Coming down like one level below that was, I think, kind of consensus about the need for an added value of the ability for this initiative to act as credible and effective means of communicating information to those that need to receive it, relating to monitoring risks, identifying risks, communicating how to respond to risks, and the real kind of emphasis on how important that coordinating function then is within that action. And you know, there were some examples of best practice shared within the group, but we really were drawing on some of the lessons we can learn from the other regional initiatives that are already kind of underway, and we look forward to having those kind of cross regional dialogues and interactions so we can learn that. I think that there was an acknowledgement that while the language of atrocity prevention is sometimes alienating and challenging in the sphere of Europe, that is not a challenge that is unique to Europe. I think all of us in the community of atrocity prevention spend too much of our time explaining what we mean by atrocities, that they need to be prevented everywhere and that there is a need to prevent rather than just respond. That is not just a European challenge. And again, learning from other regions how normalizing and sometimes reframing that language has been helpful and efficient would be really important. The language of identity-based violence, I think, is a good framing there because, of course, it encompasses rather than excludes and dilutes. And I think that there was the acknowledgement that Europe isn't starting from scratch here. There is such a very rich movement and set of contributions that already engage in specifically the fight against atrocities, whether in Europe or whether outside of Europe, and also the kind of vibrancy and richness of human rights movement in Europe is something to be acknowledged. And so more it is about connecting and moving away from a point of disconnection, and how we can in doing so bring a framing that can then convince Europe and also other parts of the world that these risks both exist in Europe and can be responded to and prevented. The first concrete outcome of that conversation will be that we will have a follow-up forum where we have more than 45 minutes, hopefully before Christmas, but we all have busy schedules, so we will see. And that is our commitment from Europe to you. I stop there.
Thank you, Kate. Wonderful. I begin with the end. You will have a follow-up forum. And you began saying if there would be an initiative to come out. So you are saying there will be a forum to continue the idea. So I encourage you to make from this if a reality and to come out of your next forum where you will talk about that with concrete ideas on how you can shape what I'm hearing to become a kind of platform. Platforms are these spaces exactly who are doing what you are saying. They are generating common language, common understanding, common working principles. Everyone can remain continuing what he, she does, and that they can become mutually complementary and act in also very much attuned with their regional context. I find it very important, and I'm so happy to hear that it's going to become a reality, and it could be, as you have been saying it so often, a complementary element to the other regional initiative. So keep us posted. And again, I would say, what are the tangible goals that you would like to reach in terms of tangible results? And I do believe that this identity-based violence terminology is indeed very convenient, and this connecting elements that you have been framing constantly are very important. So welcome to a possible potential European platform of prevention of identity-based violence, and I wish you a good luck, and we look forward to hear from you. And let's fasten our seatbelt and go to Africa, where Justice Jamila Mohammed will report to us on what has been discussed in its African Working Group. Thank you so much. You have the floor.
Felicitas is presenting. Felicitas is our rapporteur.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mo. I was saying Felicitas is our rapporteur, and I see her on
Ah,
the
Felicitas. Okay, sorry, Felicitas. Welcome, and
Good
you have the floor.
morning and good afternoon. Thank you, Mo, for welcoming me. The African Working Group had a very good discussion where we started with the chair explaining the vision of the African Working Group, which is to build and grow a Pan-African Working Group with a robust representation from all regions of Africa. And in addition to other activities, also African Working Group focus on increasing awareness towards efforts to prevent genocide. Where discussions on experiences on genocide prevention and priorities, we had an experience from Uganda where we are informed that the Ugandan committee was instrumental during elections, and it would be good to learn from other ex-colleagues on how they respond to tensions leading to elections. And Uganda is also one of the first committees that was established, and it can take experiences and lessons learned from it. We had experience from Ghana, particularly from Kof Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, where we were informed that the center conducts training on the responsibility to protect, and they bring together armed forces, civilians, civil societies to share experiences and conduct trainings on responsibility to protect. That the center also is part of, as part of its capacity building, draft researches on atrocity prevention, and the African Working Group is a crucial platform to bring actors together, practitioners and policymakers together, so that together we can prevent atrocity crimes. And Frank explained that the center will continue to work with the GAAMAC and African Working Group in partnership to continue efforts raising awareness on atrocity prevention, and more efforts need to be done to address the accountability gap. From Kenya, we heard from Ms. Roslyn Amandi, speaking for the National Committee. She explained that There's need for partnership for atrocity prevention and to support the work of national committees. And then she appreciated the partnership they have with the Office of the Special Advisor on Prevention of Genocide, who assisted them in drafting the legislation on prevention of genocide and atrocity crimes. She also appreciated being part of GAAMAC. From West Africa again, we have Frank explaining that the West can learn from the experiences of the East Africa under the umbrella of ICGLR countries. And that it will be good to have country visits in all sub-regions of the continent so we can assess where the countries are in terms of atrocity prevention and what key stakeholders are involved, so we can draw specific recommendations for engagement and what to prioritize. And this came out as one of the key issues that we took with us. And also the need to learn from each other and to conduct in-country visits. And it was explained that recently GAAMAC African Working Group activities such as the ones in Cote d'Ivoire could be beneficial for other countries as well. The chair reiterated the fact that there are consequences for committing hate speech, and that in Kenya there are discussions on criminalizing hate speech, so to prosecute hate speech, and that Kenya can share experience from their countries. This is what we have discussed in the group. Unfortunately, I was having technical difficulties, so if I left out anything or if there's anything to be added, and I thank the support office for taking notes for me when I was having difficulties. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Felista, Asante. Thank you, really, really very much.
Karibu.
I think you are the forefront runners, and you are basically our mothers and fathers in prevention. And I think you are teaching us a lot, and you are telling about how you continue and how you become very concretely involved in national situations with the involvement of national stakeholders. I find this remarkable. I would wish, Felicitas, and I would wish Justice Jamila, that you could come and visit some of our countries in Europe or in the north of America to tell us how to do that and to share your lessons learned. And, so maybe you should also give some space in your program of action on that, disseminating your knowledge and training people from the north, the global north, to be able to be well equipped to take on the prevention endeavor in our region. So thank you very much. I see that the time is passing quite quickly, and we will jump now in teletransportation, all of us, directly to Asia. And who will report on Asia? You have the floor.
Hi there, that's me.
Iwan, welcome.
Hi, thanks, Mo. So our discussion centered on the report on hate speech by the Asia Pacific Working Group. And essentially the recommendations of this report outline the need for states to build regulatory frameworks on hate speech, emphasizes the protection of vulnerable minority groups, seek conflict resolution, and build action plans for hate speech, in addition to supporting civil society. And actually our discussion which led on from that, which was very lively given the current time in Asia at the moment. Our kind of main discussion was centered on how we can further galvanize the study group by finding different actors in the region to take forward the report's recommendations. So a component of this could be dissemination, to find further civil society and academic partners who can lead locally on it, as opposed to being an imposition from outside, perhaps. And one of the recommendations made was that perhaps we could couch this in technocratic terms in a way to support states to deal with hate speech as opposed to being necessarily a political intervention. With that in mind, obviously the difficulties for civil society groups operating in the region was also considered, and we also talked about how regional organizations or sort of organizations that might bridge to regional organizations could help in that respect. I'm mindful of the time, so I'll keep this short. But the last point is to note that the report is available in the Innovation Square in the Asia Pacific booth under documents, should anyone like to have a look at it. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Iwan. I think you are a testimony of how difficult it has been to begin and to continue the work with such a constancy and a decision that you had taken to continue working on that. Your group has regularly mentioned the difficulty to get states on board, and you are very, very clear and transparent on this issue. I was wondering whether the suggestion of Vitit Manbaran, who is based in Bangkok, could be of any use first to also connect with existing network of human rights commissions, because they would be so keen to I suppose to cooperate with you, and maybe also to map out which states actually who would be inclined basically to cooperate on this issue, because it's good for them, could join the group. You are indeed working in very difficult situations, huh? And do you want to name the countries on which you are working again for all of us to know?
Yeah, of course. So the report itself picks up on case studies from India, Pakistan, Indonesia, Myanmar, and the Philippines. Okay,
so you are really working on very, very, very tough context, where the multiple threats are existing. And therefore, I think that having states who are friends of prevention could be maybe also helpful for you, because you are working on such difficult issues. But we are with you. And if there is any help that can come out from other regional group, count with each of us and all of them, I would say it like that. And so thank you very much. And let's now go to and fly to the thematic area, which has been somehow cross-regional in its thinking. And I would like to know who is going to report, because I don't see Jennifer.
I am the one, Andrea Bartoli.
Very good. Thank you, Andrea.
You're very welcome. So it was a very interesting frame, because the group came around concerns of Jennifer's to really move GAAMAC as a system around themes and projections, and even sharing concerns. In that sense, there is an old trend of GAAMAC, that is this idea of the big tent and letting many different threads, coexist at the same time. But in the end, the conversation took two very interesting different orientation. One in the direction of a more self-conscious North America realization, right? In North America, you have actors like the Atrocities Prevention Study Group. You have actors that have thought prevention and contributed to prevention in different ways. And it could be good for GAAMAC to be intentional about creating a group that is a North American one. There was an interesting Canadian US conversation in the group, and it is possible that you will see something moving in that direction as an exploration, to have this Canada-US conversation of two countries that are so similar and so different. And so that was certainly one element that came out of the conversation. But the other one was even more fundamental, about prevention per se. right? So we use prevention, obviously, we practice prevention, we are about prevention. There is a fundamental link between prevention and the identity of GAAMAC, but it's clearly not enough to say prevention. There is a need to explain prevention. There is a need to understand prevention better. There is a need to prove prevention, right? Is prevention working? When is prevention working? What are the results of prevention? How can you make sure that prevention can be measured, and so on and so forth? These are somehow complicated technical problems on one side, and on the other, necessary contribution to the conversation for GAAMAC as such, and for individual countries and region as GAAMAC move forward. So it's going to be seen what will come next, but a proposal has been made of creating a research group, of a working group, or some form of orientation that will gather knowledge around prevention as a non-paper, as a paper, as a research project, that will do this effort of gathering the best knowledge around prevention and proposing it internally to GAAMAC and externally to all the interlocutors that we are working with, individual states, regional actors, the UN system, and so on and so forth. So it was a fascinating conversation. I must say that it was in the best style of GAAMAC. I cannot but conclude with a note about the revelation that was given to me, that the place where Sylvia and Claire and the others are doing the stage, this wonderful angle with the nature that you see on the video when you do the conversation, is actually the office of GAAMAC. This was not the stage things for this particular conversation. Is actually where they work. I must say that coming from my apartment and constrained in my little place, I felt very much in sync with this effort to blend the best of human mind, the best of design, the best of what is possible to one another for the purpose of prevention. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. A very complete synthesis of this thematic working group I was involved in. Interesting. So we have basically a series of initiatives on the ground that are becoming stronger and stronger, more experienced. They are also sensing what is difficult, what can be done, the risk and opportunities. Some of them are working in real time, in real context, and the Americas, when we think about Guatemala and a situation where it's extremely difficult to be human rights defenders, for example, or to engage for prevention. But you continue, you accumulate lessons learned, good practices, and you are in touch with each other. We will maybe see, and I would like to say, we will see the emergence of a European platform initiative on preventing identity-based violence, multiple ways, connecting with existing actors. So that's very promising. And I hope that we will also witness the creation of a sub-regional group, Canada and the US, working on very important issues that are to be dealt with now and have to do with also hate speech, also discrimination against minorities and refugees, and so on. That would be a very important asset. Last but not least, I believe that this reflection on prevention, while it needs to be further tackled, is, in my sense, something unique that GAAMAC could bring in, as GAAMAC has been really the place where we have made of prevention a reality. So thank you, all of you, so much. I know we have not made justice to the richness of the work you are doing, and I hope that in GAAMAC V, there will be, I don't know, a whole day consecrated to this regional initiative, so that really the ones who are not in can really understand the in-depth and the variety and the diversity and the impact of this regional initiative. So thank you so much for all you have been doing, and we keep on together. And I pass it now to our maître de cérémonie, Claire, for you to take over. Wonderful to have you there, and I pass you these wonderful initiatives in your hands for your further blessing. Thank you so much.
Merci, Mo. So thank you very much for moderating that discussion. And you've heard that there are those regional conversations that went on today, and tomorrow there's going to be some more regional conversations. The Asia Pacific Study Group and the Africa Working Group are going to meet tomorrow, and they're going to present their reports on hate speech. And you can visit the Asia Pacific Group booth at 9 a.m. and the Africa Working Group at 12 p.m. So that's Central European time if you would like to get to those sessions. That's tomorrow, but there's still much happening today. And there are various workshops that are going on today. And you can see some of those that have come on the screen now. The effects of media framing on public engagement with atrocity prevention and response. Very interesting, and my background as a former journalist, so I encourage you to attend that one. Responding to contemporary forms of racism, xenophobia, and anti-migrant hate speech, and the role of religious and faith-based actors in atrocity prevention at the national level, challenges and good practices. And then after, in about an hour's time, the Holocaust and mass atrocities today, hate speech, fake images and propaganda, and new technologies, new emerging atrocity threats, and how to prevent them. So I encourage you to attend those workshops, also to attend some of the regional sessions tomorrow morning. And then European time, Sylvia and I will be back for the closing ceremony, where Sylvia will be giving a preview of the outcome document, and I'll be recapping some of the main messages along with Sylvia. But just to say thank you, everybody who's been attending today. Do keep and stay tuned and join us tomorrow at 2 o'clock Central European time. That is 8 o'clock in the morning in the Americas and 2100 in Asia Pacific. But from all of us here at the moment, that's all. Goodbye. Have a good rest of the day.